Hey guys, thanks for joining me. It's the Pilgrim Hiker. I just wanted to say that after doing the last video, which was the 30-mile challenge walk, you may have noticed that I brought my dog for the last 2 miles of it. And I do get asked a lot of questions sometimes from people, why don't I take my dog with me? Now the dog's name is Shadow. He's a tricoloured border collie. He was bred with a short coat, which makes him easier to clean. It's quite popular with farmers now. And I got him about 7 years ago. And the idea was that he would walk trails with me. He would be my sort of walking buddy as I did these videos. Some of my older videos that are archived, but I haven't put them up because they are just old and filmed on a potato. You will see him in some of those. And the reason I don't take him now is simply one of temperament. Now, if you know anything about border collies, they are sort of renowned for being 50-50. You can either get a border collie who's very friendly, good around people, or you can get very timid border collies where they are terrified to be around humans, be around animals, and they respond with aggression, as dogs are prone to do. So, as you can guess, Shadow is of the latter. He is very timid. He responds well behaviourally as far as me and him go, so he obeys commands perfectly well. He's excellent off the lead. But when he approaches other dogs, other people, wildlife, livestock in farms, he will just attack. That's his default. He doesn't bark, he doesn't do anything. I rarely hear him bark anyway. He will just go straight into a sort of nervous defensive posture where he backs down and then goes straight for an attack. So a preemptive attack there, not really defensive. And this very early on came forward, even as a puppy. And so we try to do what every dog teacher or dog handler tells you to do, which is sort of acclimatise them to being around people, around animals, expose them to it, get them playing with other dogs, which we did. We tried for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. He would go with my dad's dogs because they've got 2 labs. On the field, they'd be off playing with each other, but then another dog would come in and Shadow would attack it. Which kind of, there were a few incidents that come to mind. First of all was one person who was cycling past and he jumped up and sort of ragged at the guy's leg, tearing his pants. So this guy was not happy whatsoever. I did feel very bad about that. And the second one, when it really sort of came to a head, was Hadrian's Wall. These are kind of incidents that stick in my mind. We walked Hadrian's Wall, so Shadow's done the whole of Hadrian's Wall. Probably 3 times because he kind of ran up, ran back, and walked again. So we think he did 3 Hadrian's Walls. But all along that route he had to be kept on a lead, which when you're walking on difficult trails is hard enough as it is. But anyone who tried to touch him, I know one person tried to offer him a biscuit at one of the B&Bs we stopped in, and he took the biscuit and most of a hand. But it came to a head when I realised that he was so scared he couldn't even sleep in the accommodation, because it was very difficult to get accommodation with a dog. He had to stand there and just sort of, he was almost shaking, and his eyes were drooping, his head was nodding, trying to get to something, but then would jerk awake because he didn't feel comfortable. So I kind of thought, enough's enough. We've hammered this nail for a few years. He's not going to change. He's not going to get past this. So it has to be managed. So my routine now is, before a hike, I might have mentioned my morning routine. Before a day hike, me and him go for our walk as normal. The same thing we do every day. I'll get up, I'll make myself a cup of coffee in a mug, travel mug, and then we'll go out and we'll walk the estate. I have a route. It's 2 to maybe 3 miles long. We'll do all that. So even before I've done any hiking, I've walked 2 to 3 miles. We'll bring him back. He gets his treat, he gets his breakfast, and then he gets open access to the back garden, which is, we're really fortunate to be a long, wide garden, so he's got good running space. And he'll have that for most of the day while I'm out hiking, and then when I come back I'll relax in the garden with a cup of tea and we'll be throwing sticks all the way along. So he gets his exercise, don't ever worry about that. But it is a shame, and it's a real shame, that he couldn't be the walking buddy he's still loved and he enjoys life, which is all that you can ask for in a dog. Which leads me to another point which some of you might think, and this might divide my viewers, but your thoughts are your own. I'm kind of, in that experience, I'm not a big fan of taking, even if he was the right temperament, I'm not a big fan of taking a dog hiking with me. And the primary reason is the inconvenience of it. Not to be nasty to the dog, but it's kind of inconvenient, and you don't realise it because you kind of have this romantic view from the movies of one man and his dog facing nature. But the reality is quite different, and if you're maybe thinking about getting a dog, maybe listen to what I've got to say and think about it. It's the small things that get you, sort of like trying to climb a turnstile if the dog's on a lead. If the dog's off a lead, you've got to be careful that the dog doesn't attack animals or livestock or worry them. Even just running around, maybe trying to be friendly with the animals, can get the farmer's attention. It can cause the animals to panic. I've had the case with Shadow on Hadrian's Wall where the horse tried to stamp on him. We were going through a horse's field. The horse came over with its hoof raised to kind of stamp on Shadow. So you imagine that with cows, which can obviously kill people. You hear many stories in England of cows actually trampling unwary hikers. And of course the farmer has legal permission to shoot animals that are worrying his livestock. So there's an added risk. You've also got the inconvenience of accommodation. Unless you're stopping in a tent with the dog, which obviously would make it easier, you've got to find B&Bs, hostels and hotels that will take you and your animal. You can't just nip into a shop. It's not necessarily that easy. You might feel comfortable leaving the dog hooked up outside. Again, you need to make that decision based on your own dog. You've got to carry enough food and water for both you and the animal. And what else? There was one that sprung to mind. Anyway, regardless, that for me would be enough. It would kind of take away from the experience. Now that's just something to think about if maybe you're thinking about getting a dog and taking it with you. If that's not you, maybe you've been doing it for years and you've never had any of these problems, then fine. I'll let bygones be bygones. This is just my opinion. You can just dismiss it. It doesn't matter. But that is just a brief explanation as to why Shadow, the border collie, doesn't come with me on most walks. But don't feel that somehow he's missing out. He has a good and rich life, and although it means no matter how many miles I do during the day, I'm going to be doing 2 to 3 minimum in the morning. I'm happy to do that. We have our little time together. That's one of the best times to be praying, really, is when I'm walking the dog. I can look up, talk to the boss while he's sniffing lampposts. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for hearing me out. Like I said, take what you want out of that and make your own decisions. And thankfully, I will hopefully soon see you on the trail.